Well, I'd like to ask you about players you've seen come into the league who did not play major junior hockey. Like Kyle Turris, and how many more of them there are perhaps when you started as an NHL head coach. Is that just because there are more teams, or is that there are different development paths for players?
So you're just talking about major junior, not, so you're basically
Well,
saying.
he played junior A, right? I mean, it used to be most of the teams were stocked with major junior players, right? I mean, now you might have NCAA junior A guys, more players coming from Europe.
Yeah.
What's led to that, do you think? Are they better at developing?
Well, I think major junior players are identified earlier as top pro prospects for the most part. Then there's some, I mean, Kyle was a top player that went to college, right? Played a year at Wisconsin, didn't he, or something? So I look at that, and just because I was the same kind of thing, went through it, it's how a guy is maturing, getting through, like 18, 19, 20, 21. Where is he maturing both mentally and physically? Like I was 18 years old, I was 150 pounds and hadn't gone to college yet, not sure what I was going to do, and time I get to 20 is the first time I ever started working out. And 21, then I get a chance to play in the Olympic team, and so there's different. Players are different. Now you see major junior players, they're run like an NHL operation. These players come up here, they learn how to train, they learn how to prepare. So you're the major junior players, and I think they're more front and center. They get scouted the most. College players get scouted, but you're looking at 2 games on the weekend. European players, you get opinions from Europe, and a lot of the scouts don't get to see those players. So eventually, I think if you're a good player, eventually you'll end up playing, but the road to get there sometimes can be a lot different.
So, like, as a coach, have you ever thought, okay, like, this guy's going to be good, but I can tell he didn't play in the dub or in the O. I tell maybe he took a different path and he is going to need a couple more years to mature.
No, I don't think that ever comes into it. Player's going to be good if he's going to be good. It doesn't matter where he comes from. They have to learn different things. Some of them are, you have a major junior player, he deals with the grind of the schedule. That's something, and you're talking about, hey, he's played 80 games. You got a college player who's played 40 games. You got a European player who hasn't had the travel that a guy comes over. So there's those factors that you talk about players when they come in, but ultimately, if they're good players, you train them to how you want them to look on your team and what you want them to do for your team, and you bring them along. But really, I've never had a situation where, this guy's from college, let's take him, or this guy's from major junior. You're really looking at the ability of the player and where he fits and what he can do for you to give the evaluation of him.
Dave, we had Kyle Turris in, and he talked about just how important his offseason was for him. He was able to train that he really hadn't done for a few years, and it feels like he's contributed in the shootout and on the second unit, and then, of course, scored the goal. Mm-hmm. You were pretty confident that Turris could give you a lot more this year than he was able to last year. Yeah. Can you talk about the importance that maybe gets overlooked in a lot of the stuff that's done behind the scenes that you don't see that leads to having success on the ice?
Well, Kyle, I give him credit because he did put a hard summer in. And, he's played in the league a long time. Sometimes it just comes to the point where you're not willing to put that work in. He went way the other way and said, you know what, I'm going to put the work in and see where it goes. And we had a number of conversations in the summer about where I thought that he could maybe, we could help him, putting him in more positions where he can use his talents. And he said, I'll put the work in, you give me a chance. And he came into camp, played very well. But he's a little bit like, we told that story the other day about there's young players and veteran players coming to camp. And the young players, everybody's got an opportunity. And Kyle knew that coming in. He had to come and earn his way on our team. And veteran players who have played in the league a long time, they like playing in the NHL. They're going to put the work in. They're going to go to camp, and they're going to play the right way and do the right things. And if a young player comes up and takes their job, that's one thing, but they're not going to give it away. And Kyle came in with the purposes, I'm going to earn my job and keep it. And he's done well so far this year.
You go from Saturday's game in Vancouver where you did a great job of really limiting high danger chances. There's very few. And then last night, Mikko Koskinen had to make some pretty key saves to you at key times. As a coach and a former player, just the ebb and flow of how one night you can be really focused in on doing what you want defensively, and then the next night, for whatever reason, it's not there. What do you equate to that? Is it a credit to the other team, or is it just that difficult to limit high danger chances on a regular basis?
I think it's the calendar. We mistook Halloween for Christmas yesterday. Just, here, have one of these. We're passing them out tonight. So, no, we just made some mistakes in some coverage, some puck mistakes that were a little sloppy on our part.
When you see those mistakes, Dave, is that fatigue? Is it being relaxed? Because obviously the players know better not to do that, but then, or is it just the pace of the game that sometimes it's going to happen at the speed of?
No, there's sometimes it's the pace of the game. Sometimes the other team is forcing you into those mistakes. Sometimes you're just not as sharp as you need to be. And for instance, Bush's game. Bush has been really good for us. That was Bush's down game. He recognizes this morning, he understands it and put it behind him, and he moves on. But we had some players last night that just weren't as sharp as they normally are, and you lead to some of those mistakes, but that's why your goaltender gets the credit sometimes, where he cleans up some of those messes. And I said last night we were opportunistic. When I watched it today, we probably had more chances than I thought we had last night. I never felt like we were under siege last night, but we weren't as, like I said last night, we weren't as good as we were in Vancouver. But that being said, I give the guys credit. They found a way to win. Koski was good. We capitalized on some chances, and you move on. So there's going to be games. It's 82-game schedule. There's going to be some games where you're not at your best, but you got to find ways to win those games, and we did. All right.
Dave, you were just talking about Koskinen. Can you? I don't know if I should call him a fighter in the sense of dropping gloves, but just fighting through. He discussed last year was kind of tough for him without his family. Goalie's always tough if things aren't going well. Fans are, well, you know what fans can be like. Can you just maybe give us a bit of insight into Mikko just battling anything and everything and having such a great season?
Yeah, I would say mental toughness for him, and he, like you said, last year he was very open about his challenges without his family and not playing as well as he'd liked, and came back with a real purpose. He's another guy. He's a veteran guy. He understands what it takes to play in the league right now, and understands his role on our team, and come back with, say whatever you want. He had a chip on his shoulder. He wanted to show people that he was still a good player, and he's doing that right now.